Hello, biology class, and welcome to our very first video of the year. And for Unit 1, it is entitled Measurement and the Scientific Method, which deals with actually a lot of different topics, a variety of things that we need to cover before we really get started. We're going to talk about what science is, what characteristics of life are, the scientific method, obviously, how to design experiments, what are different components in an experiment. We're going to talk about data in your experiment and how you treat that, how you present that, lab practices, and the metric system. And that may not sound very exciting, but it really is, because it gets us ready to dig a little deeper into biology. So let's get started with the very first section, 1.1, what is science? And that's a really good question. Have you ever thought of that? What does it mean, science, after all? And for the most part, science is based on observations and experimentation. So scientists rely on observing and experimenting in order to describe and explain natural phenomena. That's pretty much what science is all about. The scientific method is the tool or the method that scientists use in order to study natural phenomena. And it's important to note, sometimes the scientific method is presented in a way that it makes it look like there are 4 specific steps or 6 specific steps in a particular order that need to be done just so. And really, the order doesn't matter so much. There are some very basic components that all scientists use in the scientific method, such as creating hypotheses, observing and experimenting. They take data, collect data, and they record their data. That's really important. These are different components of the scientific method, and they're important in order to form conclusions, to perhaps find an answer to the problem or the question that a scientist states. And it allows them to research and then continue to research. So that's the model that is used by scientists. So some things that science is not. That's important to know too, because science is not determined by a vote. Science is not myth or opinion. Those things are not part of science. Science also does not make judgments. It is not part of ethics. So it does not make moral judgments or aesthetic judgments. Science does not decide how to use the scientific knowledge that it comes up with. Science also does not deal with the supernatural. These are all things that are not part of the spectrum of science and what we call science. Here are just a few fields of science that I listed. Certainly they are not all-inclusive, but something that all of these fields of study do, they all use the scientific method. So all of these kinds of study here, they observe and they experiment and they record data and they base their conclusions on those observations and on that data that they collected. So what is biology? Obviously, it is a field of science, and in this field of science, the things that are studied are living. It is the study of living organisms. So when we talk about biology, it's particularly exciting because everything that we're studying is alive. So all of these are just examples of different living organisms, and this is what we're going to be studying. Biologists study the interactions of life. We like to know how organisms interact with other organisms. For example, this honeybee is interacting with that flower and pollinating it, actually. Biologists like to know how life interacts with its environment. So here, this is a spadefoot toad, and it is interacting with its environment. They like to dig down and burrow into the mud when it's really dry. So biologists like to know about the environment. that the different organisms live in and how they interact with it. Biologists also study problems and propose solutions to those problems. Now, at the end of some of the videos, I will list some ideas for you if you really like to go for the advanced proficiency, the 4, the above and beyond. I listed some things here, but I don't want you to think that this is a list of things that you need to do in order to get a 4. They are only ideas. I would actually much prefer that you come up with some ideas of your own. I find that students are often incredibly creative and can come up with ideas that I never thought of or ask great questions that I haven't asked before or heard of. So I would love it to see some of your ideas and some things that go above and beyond. However, if you'd like to read that, you're welcome to read some of those. They're just ideas for you. So thanks, and we'll see you in class.